Well, welcome back again, everyone. Today I'm beginning some reviews from a company called Emilio Cigars. They are fairly new to me, but they asked if I would review some of their cigars, and I said of course. So just grabbing the first one that came to mind is this one. It is the Emilio AF2. This is the Toro. Now, obvious question is, what does that mean? AF2 is blended and produced by AJ Fernandez, which many of you are familiar with. And these cigars comprised of Nicaraguan filler, a Pennsylvania Lajero, and an Ecuadorian Habano Oscuro wrapper. The cigar is pretty well made. You can see it there. It's one thing I wanted to do was show you the density. Feels nice in the hand. They actually were kind enough to send two of each of their cigars, so I have had this cigar and I have a little idea of what it's going to be like, and if it is as good as the first one, we're in for a real treat. So let's get right to it. 6x50 Emilio AF2, made by AJ Fernandez. Alright, so most of you know that AJ Fernandez produces the San Latano cigars. Actually a very big favorite of mine. I have reviewed the San Latano. You can look it up. And I did notice that under under shops that sell Emilio cigars, a local shop here in Columbia is listed as having them. The cigar box on Rosewood Drive. So you local people could find them there. Now, it's a nice looking cap. And it appears to be triple capped. It's hard to tell, but it shouldn't be hard to tell, but it is a little. It's but I believe it's triple capped. Now let's just there we go. Oh yeah, just a minimum off. Nice draw, very good draw. All right, the AF2. A lot of nice pepper, coffee notes, very sweet cedar right initially. That's the first thing you get. Very nice. That's how it's starting out. So let me let it, as always, sit for just a minute. And we'll let it sort of develop. Be right back. Well, we're about a ½ inch in, and the flavors are about like I initially described. Let's go over them again. There is a very sweet cedar. Also, there are nutmeg notes to go along with the cedar. Nice amount of pepper. At this point, I would put it at about a 7. And there are coffee notes and earth notes. So it is a sort of the deeper, darker spectrum. I would say the cigar is medium bodied right out of the gate. with signs of showing that it may go a little fuller. And the finish is at this point one of a nice cream with some lingering pepper. So it's starting out very nicely, actually. Notice the ash, the color, just sort of your standard salt pepper. The sweetness is not as intense as it was at initial light up. Initially it was quite sweet. Now it's of the mediocre variety, but it's definitely a nice mix of cedar and nutmeg. I really like the pepper, and it's a black pepper. A lot of times you can describe it as white or black pepper. This is black pepper. And quite a bit of coffee and earth notes. So right now you would really say the cigar is fairly balanced, because you get all those flavors in equal amounts. So there we are at the 3/4 inch mark, maybe by now. Well, interesting here about the 1 1/4 inch point. The ash appears to be ready to do something, so let's let it fall in the ashtray. But the flavors have really changed. There we go, just before falling in my lap. Your initial flavors now have changed somewhat. You get a lot of the nutmeg and dry cinnamon, and the cedar is sort of secondary to those two, but it is a nice mix. Everything else stayed the same, the coffee and the earth. But I thought it was interesting that you have that dry cinnamon and nutmeg combination with a little underlying cedar. Interesting flavors. That's really the only change, and I wanted to come back to fill you in on that. And we're at it made that change at about the 1 1/4 inch point. About 2.5 inches in, not far from the midpoint, and the sweetness has gone. You do still have the initial flavors of the dry cinnamon, nutmeg, and cedar, but there's no sweetness to it. Pepper is still good. There's actually probably on the finish a little more sweetness to the cream than on the spice. And the pepper is still lingering nicely, so perhaps the sweetness will come back, but right now it's gone. Well, we're here at the end, so I'm gonna wrap it up. If you notice, there was a big gap from the last segment to this one. That's because not much changed. Little subtle changes. So here at the end, let me try to give you where we are. Still no sweetness to it. The dry cinnamon and cedar are your main players. The earth earth notes have come very much forward, so they are equal to, if not a little surpassing, the dry cinnamon and cedar. The pepper remained very good. The finish is still one of a very mediocre sweetness of cream and some lingering pepper. The cigar started out amazing with that sweet cedar and all the other things going on. When the sweetness went away, the cigar took, for me, a severe turn, and not in a good way. If this cigar had sweetness and richness to it as it started out going, it would be amazing. But when it lost that sweetness, it lost a lot. And I thought it might come back, but it didn't. So the Emilio's AF2 became, for me, not such a great cigar, and I had high hopes for it. As I said, I've had this cigar already, one of them, and I don't remember taking the big turn of losing the sweetness, but it was several days ago. Perhaps it did, but at any rate, we're judging it today, and for that reason, I'm giving it an 86. So the Emilio Cigars AF2 gets an 86.